So I just had a conversation with this person I met on my journey. They asked me a question that really changed something in me. I shared with him that I'm on a heart sacred journey where I find more of the things that brings me joy. And he asked, "Well, aren't you lonely? And isn't happiness only real when shared?" And it brought me to an awareness that I didn't even recognize until this point. And I answered to him that few days earlier I was spending time at the beach and I was completely on my own. There was no other person on that beach, but I wasn't lonely at all. When I was swimming in the water, a dragonfly came and sat on my nose. I met some cats that spoke to me and they told me that they feel lonely and scared and asked me to feed them. And I met so many different animals that I've probably never seen. And so I told him, no, I don't feel lonely because life is truly surrounds us in everything. The natural world is so rich, and if we're open to it, which I guess I am, we realize we never truly alone. We never are on our own. We're never just abandoned. We're always part of something, whether it's from society or from the natural world. But I guess it truly requires you to be very brave, but not always in a brave way. Sometimes it's in a vulnerable way in order to live from the heart, which is brave. Because living from an open heart space requires you to be very honest and very real and very genuine with everything that you feel. The good, the bad, the ugly, the most raw emotions, and the most beautiful one, those that others accept, and those that you just need to accept about yourself and honestly feel them and move through them in order to transform to a higher level. I guess I always knew I was a nature girl. That's not something new. But maybe I've took for granted the fact that I feel so at home with the plant and animal kingdoms that I feel as they speak to me just as a person does. That they call it the language of the heart. It's a universal language in which things, people, animal, and the natural elements, water, fire, wind, and earth, all connect and speak to each other in a way that is non-verbal yet is purely understood. You can understand the intention and the energy that speaks to you. It's a language without words, but it's based on feelings. And those feelings are so pure and so clear that they just go directly into the other source of it and change it. And it probably changed both of you. And I guess one of the things that I've realized too is that parts of our fears, on a collective level, is that we sometimes conform not because we truly desire it, not because the values of society truly speaks to what we really want on a soul level, but sometimes we just are not sure if we can actually acquire what's our heart desire if we stick to our truth and live from the heart. And I guess I realized that from a place of true love and I hope non-judgment in my speech, the material world as we created it, I mean as a society, the way we've created it is both has benefits and comforts, but I guess it truly blocks the heart so many times because the way in which we've created ourselves structures of security has prevented us from remembering that security is only part of our existence, and at times we truly need it, and sometimes it's necessary. But how many times have we clinged to security because it's the only thing we've known, or it's because what we've thought was the true way of living? How many people are stuck in those structures, not even aware that they have an option to change life, to change their own life? And what does it mean for us to live in a society that is not inspiring individuality and free thinking and free spirited living? And what would it actually be if we lived in a society that did encourage such thing? That living from an open heart and an open mind and from true courage and vulnerability and wisdom was something that we all aspire to, because we knew it's going to give us this true fulfillment that we seek in a material way. I guess I've been in and out of enlightenment many times in this life, on this journey, and I just remember so many times when I was in my most enlightened states that it was kind of like misunderstood because it was weird. But I also remember how free I felt within my soul and how energy was just so clear for me, how miracles occurred in the most beautiful ways. And I guess if I'm being so fairly honest with myself, I guess the greatest gift I've realized on this journey is how liberating an enlightened life can be, and how much do I want to aspire to this type of life, and not the suffering that comes with living a material life that I honestly don't feel like they belong to me. I remember that I've tried to succeed and aspire to acquire all those things just to ensure that I will have long-sustaining happiness on my senses and on a way that makes sense. Because if I know that my house is comfortable, then wouldn't I just want to acquire more things to improve my comfort levels? And if I'm comfortable, then why would I want to change anything? And if I don't want to change anything, then do I truly live? Does life don't change? Is the world don't change? Or isn't the earth changing as well? And I guess feeling so disconnected from the natural rhythms of the world, of the way that nature changes her seasons and the way in which life flows in a way that we people don't always necessarily control, and that's okay. Like, what would our life truly be if it was in alignment but less in our external overt need for control? But surrender isn't necessarily an act of powerlessness that the social environment has taught us to think of, because surrender requires you to trust in something much bigger than your ego, or your expectations of yourself, of your life, of the world. Also, surrender doesn't necessarily mean that you should stay passive at all times and never take action. It just means that you give your understanding or your ability to invest your resources to a power much higher than yourself and ask it to guide you towards the path of fulfillment. And believe me, when you're gonna ask it, it's gonna take you there, but you must answer the call. And that is the most scary part, is truly taking the first steps to open up the heart. It's truly like answering the call, because when you pray, the universe hears and it responds, and as a result, miracles appear. But you must believe in miracles first. I mean, that's the importance of understanding our belief systems. It's only if we believe in miracles then we can receive them, because we believe in them. And if we stay skeptic of their truth, then they'll skip us, or we skip them. Well, I guess if I take into account what I've said earlier about the story, the conversation I had with this young man, I would say happiness is real anyway, because it's always shared. But I guess what I want to share is magic. Maybe magic is only real when shared. Talk about magic in society. You'd be called, I don't know. At least that's not the language in which most people speak, because that's not the normal way of speaking. But it's a way of speaking, it's a language, and it's not necessarily out there in a different world, in a Delulu world, in an illusionary world. It's actually right here in the real world. I mean, that's kind of what I mean. That magic is real, and it happens all the time. Do you want to be part of it?